Today, we want to open with a discussion on the state of the nation. And I have with me two of Nigeria's leading public intellectuals. Here in the studio, I have Malam Baba Yusuf, a policy strategist, the CEO of Global Investment and Trade Company, who was actually the first substantive managing director of the Nigerian Aviation Handling Company Free Trade Zone. Malam Baba Yusuf, welcome back to Inside Sources.
It's a pleasure to be here again, Laulu. Anytime.
Right. Joining us virtually, I have the immediate past managing director and editor-in-chief of The Guardian, and who is also a columnist. I want to welcome to Inside Sources, Mr. Martins Oloja. Martins, you are welcome to Inside Sources.
Oh, thank you very much.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to start with you, Martin, who, by the way, is a reporter that has covered, I think, no less than 8 Nigerian head of state. Martin, if I ask you now that what is the state of the nation today, in a very short opening remark, what will you say?
Well, I think if you come from that angle, the state of the nation, I can see as a reporter, as a journalist, as a field worker, I can see that there is tension in the land because of socio-economic problems. And these are specific things. We can see that people are scared about even prices of foodstuffs, prices of essential commodities. And as we speak, you see that there is scarcity of PMS, of what we normally call petrol air, to power our vehicles, to power our generators, and to power everything. These are part of the critical factors in determining prices in Nigeria. Once the PMS price is high, prices of goods will be high, and people move goods from place to place. From even interstate transport system is having some problems because there are so many tax points. And these are part of the reasons prices of even goods that are produced here and even foodstuffs are very high. So the state of the nation is not good enough. The state is angry. The state is tensed up. And everybody, including those of us in the media, are not finding it easy at all. People may, as NTA would say in those days, you cannot beat the rich. But I used to say while we were recording there that you can't reach the beat. Sometimes now we may not be able to reach the beat.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for those opening comments. I'll bring it right back to Malam Baba Yusuf, who is also a columnist, actually, with The Nation. Malam, what will be your opening remarks about the state of the Nigerian nation today?
Well, to be very succinct, Nigeria is on its knees and at the verge, of, let me say, collapse if the necessary things are not done in the short to mid-term. I don't want to go through the numbers or the economic indices, but what is more practical for me is what we see on the streets, the price of food in the market, the state of insecurity in the country, Laulu. Every other day, you hear numbers of people that have been killed in almost every part of the country, especially in the northwest. It's creeping into the north central. We are not seeing this insecurity abating, albeit it is escalating, whether it is kidnapping, whether it is banditry, and then the act of terrorism by the collaboration of ISIL, ISIS, and Boko Haram, who have now strategically run into alliance with these bandits. The economic situation is going worse. The policy incoherence of this administration is escalating the issues. And the icing on the cake, if I may use that phrase, in this terrible situation, is what we have, the love letter we have last week with the increase in PMS and then the increase in the VAT, which is coming, which is what we call, in my place, a dagger by your side, by the administration having increased the minimum wage, to that 80 or 70,000. And then you come with this some 3 weeks later. I'm telling you, it would have been better not to increase anything and leave the state of the economy, even for Mr. President and his administration. It appears they have triggers, a domino concomitant effect on the socio-economic of this country, which is very terrible. And the future, to me, is very bleak.
Okay, let's start with what is clearly the more compelling issue, which is the fact that this past week, the pump price of fuel went to anything between 850, 65 to, in some instances, actually 1,200 naira. Mr. Martins Oloja. Now, we know, I mean, even though government doesn't seem to concede it, that even before now, government was putting some subsidy. And, analysts even say that even at 850 up to 1,000, there's still a little bit of subsidy. The question I wanted to ask you is that, has it not emerged enough for us to understand that we can't really, really afford not to have subsidy? Martin, I want you to take it from that point, and then we come back to the studio.
So from my opening statement, you can see that, the purchasing power of everybody in this place, how many people are even really employed. And you see, you do not have employment opportunities. People who are working, you are talking about 70,000 minimum wage. What is the salary of a director? So there is a companion piece we have to discuss, which is becoming an elephant in the room, and it shouldn't be at all. Electricity. These power companies, they now classify some people into band A. So when you add that one to price of PMS, you know that we have energy crisis in our hand. So many people who so-called business class, so-called elite and all those things, people are beginning to talk about how to pay for band A. When you have 50,000 naira worth of energy that you purchase is not up to 200 units. You can't use certain things anymore. Then you add that one to the price of PMS. There have been figures from different parts of the world where government has to subsidize certain things, subsidize agriculture, subsidize energy, even in Europe, in most parts of the world. So there is no running away from this subsidy. And then there is another thing within this same context. We are not enjoying this. This is the age of the big data. We are not seeing the figures the way we should see. We are always hearing about landing costs. We are always hearing about only NNPC has been importing. And marketers will go to NNPC, and NNPC determines everything within the concept of the context of the regulation that they are talking about. So let us have some clarity. Let us have some transparency in these things like that. And let us know what is happening, even with the Dangote refinery, with the capacity that Dangote has advertised, with what is happening there. We have too much darkness in the transactions between NNPC and even Dangote, which is a refinery, which, as I wrote in my column today, you see, I feel that we should be proud of what is happening, and we should see figures of what he can do, even if he is getting his crude oil anywhere. The journalists have gone there. I was part of the team there. Let us have some clarity about the relationship between NNPC and Dangote. Too many regulators and too many people are talking, and there is obscurity. And we are hearing too many things from NNPC every day. Let us have some clarity for goodness sake.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Martin, for that very passionate point. Now, Malam, the same question, and, you're also free to take it whichever direction you think is compelling. Have we gotten to the point where all of us now realize that there must be some kind manageable subsidy on this issue of PMS? Malam.
Absolutely. And to expand the conversation, I'm a bit worried that the Tinubu administration seems to be running a government that is driven on levies, taxes, as their means of generating income and revenue. And it's worrisome because they will cripple the economy and they will kill the people they promise that they are giving hope. What am I saying? Let's start from the PMS you are talking about. PMS is the critical driver of the informal sector, which constitute 80% of our economy. Laulu. What am I saying? The woman that is running a hair salon, right? And the guy that is running a barbing salon, and the woman, that is doing her small petty business, the keke napep rider, the guys that are driving the buses in town, including the combi buses, use PMS, not diesel. Now, if you take it from that baseline, and because the government, successive administrations, including this administration, have failed to provide the power, a better pipeline enable generator that we are using uses PMS as well. So what you are going to see in the next couple of weeks is the skyrocketing headline core and food inflation, because it will impact on all the variables. Now, when you talk about subsidy, one of the cardinal responsibility of any government anywhere in the world is to provide the basics for its people. And even if we look at some quasi-monarchical system or dictatorial systems around the world, they are doing far better. This is a democratic system. This is a government that came riding on the tide of renewed hope. So how do you engender hope when you are pulling all the plugs of any form of succor at a critical moment in this history of this country? Whereas this administration is actually a part two of an APC administration. Whereas they should also take, and Mr. President said he's going to inherit the capital and the liability. So I was expecting to see, with all absolute profound level of respect, some sense of empathy, some sense of emotional intelligence, some sense of situational awareness in bringing about these critical reforms in an economy that is ailing, albeit to recognize that you have to apply anesthesia to perform a critical surgery. And then to land, beyond that, the way and manner, the communication strategy of the administration, in terms of the spoken words, in terms of the body language, in terms of the behavior, is not in tandem with what they are doing. They are living in a bubble and consistently telling people to tighten their belt. And I tell you, there's no belt to tighten again. People are beginning to use ropes for those that can have access to it. It's a terrible situation.
And we don't want to choke ourselves. Okay, let's move along because of our time. Now, and I'm taking it to you, Mr. Martin Oloja. Now, you wrote an article in your column today on what you call the 5 tactical errors of the president. And I wanted to ask, based on my review of that, do you think that the president or this administration has gotten to the point where there needs to be a new lease of life? Bringing new ideas, bringing new people. The president spoke recently in China, and he did say that he has a very good team. Do you think, Mr. Oloja, that it's time for some shake-up so that things can get the new lease?
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Belaulu. As I noted, I had to reintroduce myself because I have covered actually nine of them before he came. And I have seen the way things work. I've had to complain in the column that sometimes you use Google to look for the names of ministers of the the Federal Republic of Nigeria for the first time because of their obscurity, hardly because of non-performance, because of lack of action. And I believe that there is need for a shake-up of the bureaucracy. He needs to shake up his bureaucracy. As I noted, even the presidential bureaucracy comprising the secretary to the government of the Federation, head of the civil service of the Federation, chairman, Federal Civil Service Commission, now being supported by the chief of staff. I have been writing, I must have written more than 20 articles on this issue alone that is wobbly, that there is no coordination. You see policies, so and so many of those things like that they need to actually reform. They need to strengthen how it works. That they have taken this team out of the office of Secretary to the Government of the Federation, which is written in the Constitution. And even the head of the Civil Service of the Federation and the chairman Federal Civil Service Commission, these 3 offices constitute the presidential bureaucracy. But there is lack of coordination. This SA media to the president has been announcing a lot of things, and then going away from there, the civil service itself is now filled with a bundle of mediocrity. You can see, we celebrate mediocrity there. They do some exams to get their directors here and there, but as I noted even in the article, you will see that most of the political office holders from 1999 to date got some of their aides into the service while leaving office. They got their aides into the service without interview, without anything. In other words, you find some of the worst people, I'm sorry to use that word, in the service, why they never interviewed some of the best brains. No matter what some people say about us, I have been working with intellectuals. I have been working with so many people in this country. We still have some of the best brains in the world. But they do not get to these people. After election, there should be governance. You look for the brightest and the best. As it is now, I think the president should not be telling the world that, yes, I have a very strong team. We should swallow some pride and vanity sometimes and just own up and listen to what the people are saying, listen to what the media is saying at this time about how to rejig. After all, at the administration, after all, he is the one to take the credit. Yes. He's the one to take the glory.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very, very, very important point that, at the end of the day, what people are going to say is the Tinubu administration. I bring it to you, Malam. Do you think that it is time for the president to bring a new lease of life? There has been buzz around this town that, president wanted to give the ministers, the cabinet 1 year at least, and it's now 1 year. What do you think?
I totally agree. Why? Because I will speak from 2-3 perspectives. You introduced me as a former CEO, so we know how these things work at the top line. In the private sector, mostly they give us maybe 6 months. You take a
6 months of what?
Of timeline to deliver. When they hire you, they tell you 6 months probation.
Oh, okay.
And as a CEO, within less than 6 months, you will know whether you are going to stay or you are going to be out. I mean, I work with a publicly quoted company, a multinational. You don't go there as a CEO and tell them stories 4 months down the line. They are already preparing to fire you.
And this was when you were CEO of NACO.
Yes, and then having worked at the board level for 25 years, at a C-suite level, at executive director level, we know how these things work. Now, it is even more serious, like my fellow panelists mentioned, with the case of Nigeria. Now, Mr. President has taken a mandate. He knew what he was going in for. And he's a person that comes with cognate experience of leadership. I'm a bit worried with the body language and the utterance of Mr. President, especially as China, when he said he has confidence on his team. Maybe he's saying it for face value, but a lot of Nigerians are waiting urgently, eagerly, to see that there's a rejig in this cabinet, because obviously for all of us, we know that there are a lot of people in that cabinet that have no business being in the cabinet. Ab initio. Why? Because a lot of political considerations were put in place in hiring these people. Again, like my fellow panelists say, some people haven't even worked anywhere, and that's the truth. People just served, or they didn't even serve, and then they worked around for a while, and then boom, you are at one of the highest level of leadership at one of the most critical time, without experience, without capacity, without competence, and indeed without integrity. People with corrupt cases are running this government at this time. So Laulu, I think Mr. President needs to demonstrate more seriousness. We voted for the president, or majority of the people voted for the president. And even those that didn't vote for the president are the people that hired Mr. President. And therefore we are doing the appraisal. You don't go and do self-appraisal and you have an office in your presidency that runs the appraisal. It's fine. But the feedback from Nigerians is, and the feedback from the economic variables is, there is need to change. We have superstars in the administration, but then performance is measured by outcomes and impacts. Performance are not measured by events.
Yeah. Actually, thank you to both of you. I think that, and this is my own view, just before we go to the next topic, that, there are quite a few good hands around the president in his cabinet. But my worry is that there are much more deadbeats, that are certainly, in my view, haven't, proved their mettle. And so it would be a good idea for Mr. President to take another look at the cabinet and even his kitchen cabinet also. But last point, because of our time, I want us to also talk about the issue of the protesters who have now ended up as suspects of terrorism and treason. I'll take it to you, Mr. Oloja. What do you think? Now, do you think parading people who protested as potential or actually suspect for terrorism and what do they call it? Terrorism financing, treason. What kind of optics does that give? For the nation.
The optics is really, really very, very bad. Because look at past, it will be difficult to manage perception this way. What is the purpose? There is no explanation. Don't people have the right to protest at this time? Look at the initial discussions we have had here about hardship, about hyperinflation, about so many things like that people are protesting. These people didn't protest to destroy. They gave a program of their protest. They didn't say they were going to overthrow government. They didn't say they were protesting against hardship. They were protesting against bad governance, poor governance in the country. So now, to come to tell the people now that they are being charged with terrorism and attempt to overthrow government is curious and it's incredible. Apart from that, it is not good for government image. The people are supposed to manage priorities. As my brother there said earlier, security and welfare of the people is written in the Constitution, shall be the primary purpose of government. And I believe that we have a responsibility to use this medium to call on Nigerian Bar Association to defend those people, because these charges, I'm sorry to say, are frivolous. You cannot, in a democracy, you can't charge, where is it done? You charge protesters with terrorism act and treason? This is incredible. And I think the Attorney General of the Federation is a respected person. He has a responsibility to advise his principal that the optics is really very bad at this time. It's not good at all. They should manage all these issues. They should manage priorities. I repeat, welfare and security of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. The people who elected, the people who employed the president are the same people, are the protesters. And he has a responsibility to have constructive engagement
with them,
discussion with them about what is going on. They should make figures of transactions, debt, everything available, as my brother there said. At the same time, they should not be living in the way they are living and be telling us to tighten our belt. I would like to borrow that brilliance.
Thank you.
They should not be telling us
exactly. Very
to
important point.
tighten our belts.
Yeah, because of
why they live large and buy all sorts of things like that for their welfare. Our welfare and our security is very important.
Thank you so much, Brother Martin. Because of our time, I'll take it to Malam to just conclude. What's your take on that issue?
My fellow panelist has exhausted what I would have said with regards to the treasonable felony charges. I just want to draw the attention of this administration, particularly Mr. President, to three key points. Number one, he was in opposition for a very long time. He was in the trenches fighting for democracy. He knows what it means for people to fight for what is right for this country. And he knows what happened to those that persecuted them at the end of the day. For God is still sitting on his throne. He's still that same God that rescued this country, and he's still living. Secondly, let us cast our mind back, because these are all antics to dissuade people from further protest. And that is the key point I want to conclude with. Let me remind us of a name called Mohamed Bazouz, a young, Tunisian that was frustrated by government, that was manhandled by government officials, that was the breadwinner of his family. And that fateful day, he was pushed to the wall to douse himself with petrol. And what happened triggered an unplanned major uprising in Tunisia that became a trigger for the entire Arab Spring that took down Gaddafi, Mohammed Zain al-Abidin of Tunisia, the Algerian president, Mubarak, who were more powerful and more high-handed and heavy-handed than this administration. That is the power of the people. That is what triggered the ouster of Omar al-Bashir. And you can go on and on. 2 weeks ago, yes, of Sudan. 2 weeks ago, we saw what happened in Bangladesh. Last year, we saw what happened in Sri Lanka. What I'm saying to Mr. President is to remember, he used to be an activist, and that the power of the people is a foundation, fundamentally speaking about the power of Almighty God. They should be reasonable and face reality. Pinning treasonable felony will not stop the next uprising. They cannot have control over it with less than 7,000 of the entire armed forces, military, police, immigration, customs, with 200 million people. You don't want to contemplate that. And I can tell you Nigerians are more determined, resilient, and resolute than Bangladesh people or Kenyans or any other person on the face of the earth.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Martin Oloja and Malam Baba Yusuf, for your contribution. Our time is fast spent. I'm sure that we have more opportunities to review these situations, and I would like to say that when we hope that, having worked in that system, it is very possible that some of these things are done by the agencies. It's possible that it doesn't have the final say of the villa because, I know that it was Mr. Lateef Fagbemi who ended the treasonable trial, the bogus treasonable trial of Omoyele Sowore. That's correct. He went to court and said that, look, we are going to discontinue this thing because there is no diligent prosecution. We hope that, he will intervene. He will look at the situation. And like you both have said, it's not good for the administration, except they have compelling evidence. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Oloja. And thank you, Madam Baba Yusuf, for coming to Inside Sources. Inside Sources, we'll be right back. We're going to be having a conversation with the founding National Auditor of the APC. We'll be right back. Today, I have with me a founding member of the All Progressive Congress, who was also the founding National Auditor of the party, who has actually just recently left the party. He was also the former managing director of the National Inland Waterways Authority. I'd like to welcome to Inside Sources a leading Nigerian politician, Chief George Moghalu.
Thank you very much, Lalo, for having me.
Thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
My pleasure.
And what a time, you've been in the news all of these last several days, when you announced that you are leaving the APC. So what's going on, Chief?
No, for me, I felt, for any political contestation, there are two indices that must be considered. One is the person, two is the platform.
True.
For the person, it is about you to make a decision where you want to be. It's about you to tell yourself whether you want to contest an election. It's about you to tell yourself what you want to do. Okay, then the second leg of it is the issue of platform. For that, it has to be in consultation with quite a lot of people.
With your people, really?
Yes, it involves quite a lot of people because if you look at the letter I sent to my ward chairman telling him of my decision to resign, I put there in very emphatic terms that the decision is personal.
Right. That's
okay, true. And that has to do with my person because it's one leg of the indices in any political contestation.
True.
And that is deciding where you want to be, who you are, what you want to do.
Right.
Then thereafter, now you go to the next level of platform, which has to do with a lot of wide consultation. Because a lot of people they expected me to announce, if I'm leaving political party A, moving to political party B, or things like that. It is not my style of politics. My style of politics is, it has to do with a lot of consultation. It has to do with the people because the intention is service. You are supposed to serve a people. And then when you have that at the back of your mind, one thing that will come uppermost is how do they want you to serve them? What do they want you to do and how? So you're required to do a lot of consultation, relating with them, asking questions, telling them now that you're here, what do we do? Since I don't intend to leave politics.
Right.
Okay, if I were leaving or quitting politics completely, then I wouldn't have bothered about what anybody will say. It becomes a matter of just me and my family. Okay, but since I still want to remain in politics,
right.
then there is need now for me to now ask questions of my supporters all the years. I know my what just happened drew a lot of interest.
Yes.
Because since 1990, in fact, since my political career.
Yeah.
This is the first time.
You were the National Public Secretary of APP?
No, National Secretary.
Okay, National Secretary of APP.
APP,
and then ANPP.
Yes, then later Vice Chairman. Southeast of APP. Then later member and coordinating secretary of the merger committee that put
created APC.
And then later elected the first national auditor of APC.
Yeah. So
before this time. So you find out that, yes, I've had a trajectory of consistency. Or people became, that's why it became a lot of issue all over the country. Oh, why? What could have happened? Why? It hasn't happened before. This is a man who has never changed political platform. Why this time? And things like that. So I understand that sentiment.
Yeah. But so why? Chief, since you raised it.
Yes. No. I just wanted to let you know why there's so much reaction. Because somebody very close to me asked me yesterday, but the first person resigning from a political party. A lot of people have resigned before in the past. Why is this one so much of an issue? I said probably
because it may be unique in your
unique in the sense that this man has never done a thing like this, which is very, I don't know what to say, it's apolitical because it is a normal thing. It's a normal happenstance. But for me, I don't see it as so. So having done that, then you raise quite a lot of interest.
Yeah, well, your friends in the APC, they'll be speaking about your departure.
Yes.
I think Representative Duru, who's also from Anambra State, by the way.
Yes.
Said that we know that he had left long time ago. He's just making it formal. That's what he said.
Okay, that's maybe his opinion. That must be his opinion, which he may have formed it based on his personal observation or what have you. But then, I leave that to him, because that is his view.
Absolutely. And there's also a lot of speculation that in the press, I'm sure you must have read it, that you're also going to be joining the Labour Party.
Yes, the speculation is quite high. The speculation is quite high. But like I said, I still have to make my position clear after a wide consultation, because I intend to run an election.
Right.
All right.
Yes. You are still a politician.
Yes, I intend to run an election. And like I did say, running an election involves more than me. If I was to quit politics, then I would have said, okay, I just consult my wife and my children, and that's ends there. But this time around that I desire to still run an election. I still have to do quite a lot of consultation. I still have to ask a lot of questions. I still have to hold meetings with my group and my team that has been consistent with me over the years.
Right.
What do we do? How do we go about this? This is what you people said I should do. This is where I am. What do we do? So by the time you collate all those opinions and submissions, then you cannot be able to take a position and then come out and then make a statement to that effect.
And when do you think that's going to happen?
It won't take too long because the consultation is quite on.
Okay. So let's talk about, the future of the country.
Yeah.
Which is what we try to focus on Inside Sources. So you have been, since 1999 that we had the beginning of this republic, the Fourth Republic. Now it's about 25 years.
Yes.
And you've been among the progressives, essentially a key player. Do you think that where things are today in the country, that we are on the trajectory to that greater Nigeria that many of us, including yourself, being a progressive politician, believe is Nigeria's destiny?
Yes, I feel concerned, like a Nigerian, so to speak, and like you said, a progressive Nigerian at that. I am worried because of the enormity of the challenge. But the truth about it is that the level of destruction and decay in the system is not what can be repaired in one day.
That's true.
All right. It's something that has to be gradual, something that has to be progressive, in the sense that where we are today is actually not where we were expected to be, but unfortunately that's how we found ourselves. And then this government has just come in. For me, I see them as having come in new. They've not been long enough to be able to address all the challenges.
Right.
But I think that if they maintain the tempo and consistency, okay, we may be able to get out of the challenge. It's not an overnight thing, because the damage did not come overnight. It was a progressive decay. And then we failed to do what we were supposed to do. Because I remember very clearly when Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala was Minister of Finance.
Right.
I remember when she initiated the process of savings from excess crude account. Okay, but some governors then insisted that the money has to be shared. And the money was shared. Okay? And when we now needed money, there was no money.
There.
Okay. If we had invested quite a lot of money in our infrastructural development from long over the years, we won't be where we are today. All right? Okay. The Buhari administration, like it or not, did quite a lot in the railway sector. All right? To build that infrastructure. If we had started long before he came, I can imagine where we would be today. So what we should have done in the past, we did not do. We did not emphasize what we should have emphasized on, what we should have built on. And then we left that decay. Look at agriculture. Agriculture, don't forget that time was in this country when it was the mainstay of the economy.
Right.
I remember the good old days when I read through the books. I may not have been a player then. When you talk about the Kanu granite pyramids, you talk about cocoa in the west, you talk about palm oil in the south, in the southeast and south. I can tell you that some of the investments that were made then, Presidential Hotel, Obudu Cattle Ranch, and all these things are still there. Yeah. They all came out of agriculture. And the question is, should we now consider the discovery of oil as a curse or a blessing to us? Because the coming of that kind of shifted the focus of governance from agriculture onto the issue of the oil and gas sector that was providing immediate cash. And then the political class laid emphasis on that and then started dispensing money. Time was when we were told in this country that money was not our problem. So we cannot, for whatever it is, think that this decay of a very long time can be resolved in a period of 12 months. But it's practically not possible.
And that's a very reasonable point. But so what is your own assessment of the current administration? And I do clearly understand, like you do, that of course we have federal government, we have state government, and these responsibilities are shared. But looking at the federal government, since the emergence of our new president since last year up to now, how will you assess the Tinubu presidency?
I will look at this from the first perspective of sympathy. I sympathize with them. I sympathize with His Excellency Mr. President and his team. I sympathize with them because they came into the how would I put it, into the political setup at a situation where things have really gone bad. So, but you wouldn't blame anybody for blaming them because the buck stops on the table of the president. Yeah. It's not a matter of when he now came. For as far as Nigerians are concerned, we have a sitting president, we have a sitting cabinet that need to do magic. That is the expectation of everybody. But then the reality on the ground is that the challenge is enormous. And what they are doing, for me, they are on the right path. What they need to do is to sustain the tempo, increase effort, address the immediate challenges so that they can ameliorate the sufferings of the people. If, for example, the issue of fuel PMS is addressed successfully and is stabilized, the issue of repairing our refineries and getting them to function, so that, because you see, you can't determine the cost of these products unless the source, the supply, is sorted out. If you don't sort out the supply, the issue of pricing may be a difficult thing to achieve. So we must address those. So those areas, it's a matter of the government sitting down to look at and identify these areas that can have immediate impact on the lives of the people. Because if we address the issue of this PMS availability and supply, addressing the cost, it affects transportation. And transportation cuts across It cuts across the entire country, the entire leverage of administration. It cuts across the workers, the businessmen, everybody. It cuts across. It touches everybody. So if we address that holistically, I can assure you that the impact will immediately be felt. Because what we need to do now is that while the major issues are being addressed, there should be a room created to be able to ameliorate the sufferings of the people.
When I asked you at the beginning of this conversation that, look, we just have to look at the cumulative impact of 25 years. And I have gotten to the point, Chief, that I don't really see a lot of difference among our political elites. Whether it's PDP or APC, even LP, I just hold everybody responsible for what it is that has been the fate of this country. It's just, because the lines have blurred.
No. The truth about it, you're very correct. The political class has an explanation to make. Because the question is, have we been able to justify the confidence of the people? The answer is no.
The
answer is no, everybody inclusive.
True.
So we really need to work hard. We need to think out of the box. How do we get out of where we are? How do we get this country
to win the trust of the people back?
To realize its full potential? I was telling somebody that the biggest challenge we have as politicians in this country now is that we have lost the confidence of the people.
You are very right, Chief.
We've lost the confidence of the people. So every effort must be made to recover this confidence. And if we don't win back the confidence of the people, administering them will be difficult.
Very true.
Because if we have their confidence, they will be able to give us all the needed support. They'll give us all the support. Whatever you say they should do, they will do. But when they feel that the leaders are there and we are here.
I made a point, thank you for actually bringing this point, that Nigerians don't feel that they're on the same team with the government, especially on this issue of hardship. So the government says, tighten your belts. The situation is very bad. We didn't cause it. Well, whatever it is, we want to fix it. But it's going to take a lot of this. That will be tough. That's what the government says. And people say, okay. Now, but the people don't see on the side of people in government, whether it's executive or legislature, they don't see any tightening of belt. They see a lot of flamboyance, and ostentation, and it's like, okay, are we in the same boat? Chief Moghalu, what do you think about it?
No, it's quite worrisome. It's quite worrisome because when you sit down on your own, except you're operating in the moon, when you sit down on your own and then ask yourself a few questions, you know that the people are not happy. There is general resentment and everybody is branded a thief. Okay? Yes. Anybody who is properly dressed has an explanation to make. Okay, it's not whether now you are in government or whether you are out of government. The fact is that
people don't see the difference.
People don't see the difference again because the dividing line is very thin. That the circumstance has eroded it. So everybody is seen from the same prison. So it requires a lot of rethink. It requires a lot of soul searching. We, the political class, need to come to terms with the reality. We need to look at the issues as it is practically, and then. The emphasis now must be we must de-emphasize it from the center. There are subnationals who have a role to play. States have critical roles to play. Local governments have critical roles to play. And that is why some of us were very excited when the Supreme Court gave that judgment, giving some level of autonomy to the local government. But at the same time also, they have not addressed with the issues that is major for that control to be fully operational. You must address the electoral process that rose in those of the leaders of those local governments. Because what we have there today is our CX that are creations of the state, controlled by the state, result is gotten by the state.
Do you think the idea of having the federal government from the center control and manage state election, do you think is a good one?
No, because the CX as it is presently constituted has failed. It has. My own assessment. Has failed. So if that has failed, what then is the option? I think we try the center.
Don't you think that we can be innovative about those things and see?
It's possible.
So why, for instance, ASEC failed? It is because, in my view, that they are not really independent.
They were not independent from day one.
We had a former chief of staff come. I don't know whether you saw it, Mr. Tony Okocha. He did it on national television.
Yes.
He said So this is not a question. He said himself that as chief of staff in Rivers State,
Yes.
he will just write out the state local government elections from his office and he will give it to SEC.
Yes.
He said it on TV. That is the problem. The independence of that.
That goes to show you the level of decay. Thank God there was a confession like that.
Oh, yeah.
There's a national television.
TV, yeah.
Okay, so that goes to tell you that even if the Supreme Court has done what is expected, what we are all excited about, practicalizing that judgment
It's a whole different
is a whole different ball game. Because the same people who are operating it from the one will sit back again. That is why, tell me or show me the state where SEC has conducted election. And the state of the governor did not win all the local government.
Yeah.
Since they were starting.
Including all councillorship seats.
Since they started. Show me.
Well, it's a real...
So the purpose is now also defeated.
Right.
So if we had a process that throws up credible people, you'll be surprised that professors, you'll be surprised that successful businessmen will go back to their local government because everybody's interested in governance at their local level.
Yeah.
And if we do what
all politics are local.
Yes, if we do what we're supposed to do at the local government level, I can assure you that most people will not leave their local government to go to the state. If we do what we're supposed to do in the states, most people will not leave their states to go to the federal government to look for one favor or the other.
True.
So because if governance is brought down to the people, and that was the intention of the framers of the Constitution, they intend to bring governance to the people, down to the lowest level. And that is the local government.
I remember, to your point, I remember that in 2002, thereabout, I'm sure you know Professor Shola Adeyeye.
Oh, yes.
He's been a professor in the US for decades. He came back and he was a local government chairman. Just to back up your
No, you've even forgotten the former deputy governor of Benue State, Leto Ogiri Ajene.
I see.
Well, after being deputy governor, came back and contested and became councillor.
Interesting.
That he was interested in what is happening in his local government. Not even the chairman.
He was a councillor.
He contested to be elected as a councillor in his ward.
And I think that also speaks to the heart of service.
Yeah, because he wants to be part of what is happening at that level of governance. And by the time we now create a credible system that can throw up qualified persons,
it will be a different
not lackeys of the government of the day. Throwing up credible people professionals who will come home to be interested in developing their local government. By the time we do that, and then we implement this policy this judgment by the Supreme Court, allowing direct funding to the local government, the money sent to the local government will be used in the local government and it will impact in the immediate environment. And people will see the result.
I agree with you. Because of our time, one last question, and I will definitely want you to answer this question now.
Okay.
So because you are a politician, you've been in the National Working Committee of APP, NPP, and APC. Do you think that the way we practice party politics today, do you think it even does it promote democracy? And I'll give you an example. In the Second Republic, and I'm sure that you were also, you are very familiar with what happened. The parties were funded by the members. And then the party leaders had so much influence and authority. On this show, Chief Adwobe, who you must know very well, said on this show that when he was minister under Shagari, when they are doing fake, if Adisa Kinoye, the party chairman, made a call to the president will stop fake to go and pick the call. That was the importance and the influence of the party then. Now, it's whatever the president wants, whoever is governor is in charge, and we have lost the beauty of party democracy. What do you think about this?
It's a problem. I agree with you. It's a very major problem. And you see, this is a situation that needs to be addressed. Because the stability of the political process is a consequence of the strength of the individual political parties and to the extent of internal democracy that is being played in such establishments.
Wow.
If you have strong political platforms, people who emerge from those platforms will have every reason to obey the instructions of those platforms and then carry out or implement the programs of those parties. Because in the course of political campaign, electioneering, the parties make promises. You are supposed to present manifestos. And your manifesto is a reflection of the party you are contesting on their platform. Don't forget that no voter's card has anybody's name.
Wow.
Every voter's card, every ballot paper has nobody's name. It has only party's name.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, even in the case of Amechi,
it's party.
It says that the party.
It is the party.
Won. Yeah.
You voted the party. You are voting the party.
Yeah.
So the party has a responsibility. And you, who is the candidate of the party, is bound to represent the party's interest by carrying out what the party said should be done. But that is not happening now because we have lost internal democracy. The truth about it is that there is no internal democracy in most of the political parties. We have politicized it. We've gotten to a point where elected representatives decide what happens in the party.
Well, you don't mean politicized. I think we have corrupted it.
Yes, because then they're the ones who decide what happens in the political parties. And it shouldn't be the case. If the governor doesn't like your face, you can't be the state chairman of the party.
True. Interesting.
And then the people themselves have also given up their responsibility by way of wanting people who are elected into political positions to pay their membership dues. We have situations where you call somebody, you want 500 people registered in a local government or what, he will tell them, give me the list of the people he pays for them, and then tell them I have paid for you. And the moment that happens, he has mortgaged the entire constituency, and it becomes his personal property.
Yeah, we have a sitting minister, Mr. Wilson Wike, again, boast nationally, openly, that he paid the nomination forms for the state assembly, for the local government, and I'm sure for national, and he says it publicly.
Unfortunately.
So thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank you so much, Chief Judge Moghalu, for coming to Inside Sources. Thank you for your very insightful contributions, and thank you for your service to the country. We hope and believe that we will get it right in this country, because we will not relent, and we talk about the issues and hope that there will be a change.
Thank you so much, Lalu, for having me.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
All right. And there you have another edition of Inside Sources. Like we say, Nigeria will prevail. And we are here to ensure that happens because we will not give up. Thank you for watching. My name is Laulu Akonde. And by the grace of God, I'll see you on Friday.